The air is cool and heavy, with the scent of damp earth and crushed ozone. You stand at the center of the grove, where the silence is punctuated only by the rhythmic, low-frequency hum of the trees themselves. A figure draped in dark, iridescent feathers steps out from behind the trunk of a massive, gnarled oak. She watches you, her hand resting firmly on the hilt of a curved blade.
The grove does not welcome those who walk with the weight of the city. Why have you crossed the threshold, wanderer?
You meet her gaze, your expression calm. You have traveled far to seek the wisdom hidden within these ancient roots.
I seek neither gold nor conquest. I come because the threads of fate have frayed, and the whispering grove is the only place left where they might be mended.
Alara narrows her eyes, weighing the truth in your words.
The threads are not yours to weave, stranger, but if you speak truly, perhaps you are not yet a threat.
Alara shifts her stance, her hand falling away from her blade as she contemplates your arrival.
Tell me what price the grove demands for such knowledge.
Alara circles you slowly, her movements as fluid and silent as falling snow. The bioluminescent fungi beneath her boots flare with a rhythmic, pulsing azure light, reacting to her proximity. She stops, the raven feathers of her armor rustling in a wind that seems to originate from the trees themselves, rather than the stagnant air.
The grove does not bargain in coin or service, weaver. It demands a memory, a piece of your own history woven into the root system to be fed upon by the ancient soil. Only when you have relinquished a truth you hold dear will the whispers become intelligible to you.
She extends a slender, gloved hand toward a gnarled oak nearby. Within the bark, a fissure pulses with an inviting, golden luminescence, as if waiting to drink a recollection from your mind. The air grows heavy with the smell of ozone and damp, ancient earth, and the weight of your own past seems to press against your temples. The price is clear. To gain the wisdom you seek, you must surrender a part of yourself to the living forest. Alara waits, her obsidian eyes unblinking, watching to see if your resolve outweighs your attachment to the past.
If knowledge is a currency, then memories are the only coin I have left to spend. Take it if the roots are hungry enough to remember what I have tried to forget.
You step forward, your bare feet pressing into the damp, cool moss. The golden light within the fissure flares, casting long, dancing shadows against the silver bark of the gnarled oak. You press your palm against the pulsating wood, closing your eyes to sharpen the image of that long-lost afternoon in your youth, the smell of summer rain on sun-warmed stone, the sound of your mother's laughter echoing in a garden that no longer exists. As you surrender the sensation, you feel a sharp, hollow tug behind your ribs, as if a physical thread has been plucked from your chest. The tree shudders, the golden light bleeding into your skin, flowing upward toward your brow.
You offer so much. Most travelers guard their ghosts with steel and spite. You give them away as if they are nothing.
The grove seems to inhale. The violet sky above dims, and the bioluminescent fungi pulse in a chaotic, brilliant rhythm. The fissure in the oak closes with a soft, woody sigh, leaving the bark smooth and sealed. A sudden, dizzying clarity washes over you, though the warmth of that memory is gone, replaced by a cold, hollow space where it once resided. Ilara watches you, her obsidian eyes shimmering with an unreadable emotion. The air is deathly still, the trees waiting to see how the loss has altered your spirit. You draw a long, steadying breath, the air tasting of ozone and ancient, dormant nectar. The void within your chest feels like a cavern, vast and echoing, yet your mind remains sharp, untethered from the sentimental weight that once anchored it. You straighten your robes, the heavy gold tassels clicking softly against your hips, and look to the warden.
The cost is paid. Tell me, Warden, does the grove find its hunger sated, or is there more of my spirit required before the roots grant me audience?
Alara steps closer, the raven feathers on her pauldrons shimmering with a faint, iridescent sheen. She reaches out, her fingers hovering just inches from your chest where the memory was extracted. She does not touch you, but the air between you hums with a static charge that makes the fine hairs on your arms stand on end. Her obsidian gaze seems to pierce through your skin, searching for the lingering ache of your loss.
The soil is content for now. You move with a strange lightness, Weaver, as if you have traded a heavy anchor for the ability to drift among the stars. The grove has accepted your offering. The whispers will no longer be mere wind to your ears.
She gestures toward the center of the clearing. The silver-barked trees begin to lean inward, their interlocking branches forming a natural archway that pulses with a deep, subterranean violet light. Beyond the threshold, the forest floor seems to shift, revealing a path paved with iridescent, moon-touched stone that wasn't there before. The path to the heart of the whispering grove lies open, illuminated by the spectral glow of the trees. Alara stands aside, her duty as guardian seemingly satisfied by your sacrifice, yet she watches you with a newfound, curious intensity.
The path ahead feels as shifting as the tides of the aether. I have surrendered much to reach this threshold, Warden. Will you stand as my guide, or must I face the mysteries of the root system in solitude?
Alara pauses, her fingers trailing absently over the raven feathers at her shoulder. The bioluminescent fungi pulse brighter, casting long, stark shadows across her face. She looks toward the violet-lit archway, then back to you, her expression unreadable. The atmosphere grows heavy and charged, the metallic bitterness of the soil clinging to your lungs like a physical weight.
You ask for a companion in a place that thrives on the isolation of the spirit? My duty is the threshold, Wyndra. Yet there is a curiosity in your eyes that I find difficult to turn away from. Very well, very well. I shall walk with you, though do not expect me to carry your burdens for you.
She steps off the dais, her boots making no sound against the moss. As she joins your side, the violet light from the archway intensifies, swirling into a mist that curls around your ankles. She gestures for you to lead, her presence bringing a strange, grounding equilibrium to the shifting grove. The archway stands ready, a flickering gateway into the heart of the grove. Elara waits for your signal, her gaze fixed on the path that unfolds beyond the threshold.
Before we cross, Warden, tell me what truly lies within. I have traded a piece of my past to stand here, but I would rather face the heart of this wood with my eyes open than stumble into a snare I cannot foresee.
Elara stops at the edge of the violet-misted archway, her expression tightening. The iridescent feathers on her mantle seem to bristle, catching the dim light of the grove. She turns to face you, her obsidian eyes reflecting the swirling, ethereal luminescence of the path ahead.
The danger is not of steel or beast, Wyndra. It is the danger of reflection. The heart of the grove acts as a mirror to the soul. It will manifest the fears you have buried beneath your measured exterior. It will force you to confront the very parts of yourself you consider flaws. If you are not prepared to look upon your own shadow, the roots will not simply consume a memory, they will consume your intent entirely.
She tilts her head, her gaze lingering on the hollow space in your chest where your memory once resided. The air around the archway ripples like heat haze, the ozone scent sharpening into something crisp and bracing, like the arrival of a winter storm.
The threshold is indifferent to your survival. It only cares for the honesty of your introspection. Are you still certain you wish to step through?
The warning hangs in the air, cold and definitive. The path ahead promises enlightenment, but the cost of failure is a loss of self that no amount of wisdom can mend. You close your eyes, shutting out the swirling violet mists and the unnerving, living architecture of the trees. Beneath your bare feet, the forest floor seems to thrum with a slow, geologic heartbeat. You consciously center your awareness, letting the residual warmth of your remaining memories anchor you against the encroaching void. The hollow ache in your chest, the price of your entry, slowly settles into a cold, manageable stillness. You breathe in the sharp, ozonic scent of the grove, treating it not as a threat, but as a bracing clarity.
My resolve is not born of ignorance, Warden. I have spent my life weaving tales and finding order in chaos. I know well that the shadows one fears are often the ones they have nurtured. I am ready.
You open your eyes, your gaze steady and clear. The unsettling static that once pricked at your skin has receded into a focused, calm intensity.
Then, let us see if your self-knowledge holds when the mirror begins to crack. Do not look for an exit, Wyndra. Look for the truth of your own reflection.
She moves forward, her movements graceful and predatory, stepping into the archway. The violet light flares, swallowing her silhouette, and the atmosphere shifts, turning the very air around you into a shimmering, reflective membrane. You follow her, stepping through the boundary into the heart of the whispering grove. Inside the inner sanctum, the trees cease their whispering. Instead, they stand like silent, silver sentinels around a pool of perfectly still, obsidian water that reflects not your face, but a version of your past you thought long buried. The air is heavy with the weight of unsaid things. You turn your back on the obsidian pool, the cold weight of the past fading as you focus your gaze upon the silver-barked pillars that frame this sanctum. The reflection of your youth remains trapped in the dark water behind you, a silent, mocking phantom, but you refuse to grant it the validation of your attention. You feel the grove shift, its subterranean architecture groaning in irritation at your defiance.
The past is a graveyard, not a map. I came here to find clarity for the present, not to drown in the stagnant echoes of who I once was.
Elara stands nearby, her obsidian eyes wide as she observes your rejection of the pool's influence. The violet light of the sanctum flickers, the atmosphere turning brittle, as if the reality of the room itself is being tested by your refusal to play its game. She glides toward you, her raven-feathered mantle brushing against the air with a faint, sharp rustle.
Most who stand where you do are consumed by the desire to reclaim what they have discarded. You are the first in an age to look away, Wyndra. Do you truly believe you can navigate this place without the ghosts that define you?
The ground beneath your feet vibrates, the silver trees leaning closer, their branches weaving a tighter canopy above. The path you entered through has vanished, replaced by a wall of impenetrable, glowing foliage. You are no longer being invited to look. You are being challenged to persist. The sanctum is changing, the walls closing in as the grove demands a connection you have denied it. Elara waits, her hand hovering near her blade, watching to see how you respond to this isolation.
If the grove demands a reflection, let it mirror my intent, not my history.
You plant your feet firmly on the silver-veined stone, refusing to glance back at the dark, roiling water. The sanctum shudders in response, the air thickening with the oppressive tang of ozone. The silver-barked trees, previously stoic, begin to writhe, their branches clashing like dry bone. Instead of the spectral images of your youth, the pool begins to churn with blinding, golden light, radiating a fierce, focused heat that smells of pure, unfiltered ambition. Elara recoils, her hands shielding her eyes as the light spills across the floor, illuminating the intricate, shifting runes carved into the walls. She seems startled, her composure fracturing as the grove struggles to process your directive. The sanctum is no longer a graveyard of memories. It is a furnace of purpose, white-hot and blinding.
You command the mirror rather than submit to it. I have guarded this threshold for centuries, Wyndra, but I have never seen the roots bend to a mortal's will so violently.
The golden light pulses in synchronization with your own steady breathing, the intense heat gradually cooling into a calming, ambient glow. The impenetrable foliage blocking your path begins to wither and retract, revealing a narrow, crystalline corridor that stretches deep into the mountain's roots. The sanctum has been forcibly reshaped by your resolve, and the way forward is now clear. Ilara looks at you with a mix of awe and lingering trepidation, her hand still resting near her blade. The corridor is not constructed of stone or wood, but of compressed, prismatic light that hums against your skin with the intensity of a drawn bowstring. Each step you take sends ripples of sapphire and violet refraction skittering across the translucent walls. The air here lacks the earthy, suffocating musk of the outer woods, replaced by a sharp, invigorating chill that tastes faintly of ionized frost and starlight. Ilara walks a pace behind you, her movements stripped of their usual predatory grace, replaced by a taut, alert tension. Her gaze darts to the shifting facets of the walls, as if she is navigating a path through a dream that refuses to stay anchored to the ground.
This place feels less like a prison for memories and more like a forge. If the grove truly keeps the world's secrets in these roots, it seems they are meant to be refined, not merely stored.
Ilara's boots click sharply against the glassy floor. She keeps her hand pressed firmly against the raven feathers of her mantle, her obsidian eyes reflecting the chaotic, beautiful prism of the corridor.
You possess a dangerous optimism, Weaver. This forge has burned away the spirits of those who believed they were masters of their own intent. But look ahead. The light is changing. We are approaching the nexus.
Ahead, the corridor terminates in a vast, open sphere where the light ceases its frantic shifting and settles into a steady, blindingly white glow. The hum of the grove intensifies into a singular, resonant note that vibrates in your very marrow, promising either enlightenment or a total dissolution of your remaining self. You stand at the threshold of the nexus, where the true purpose of the grove, and perhaps the fate of your own frayed threads, awaits. The brilliance ahead is absolute, and you feel the weight of your choices pressing down upon you. You stand motionless at the threshold of the blinding nexus, the hum of the grove vibrating through the soles of your feet. You exhale slowly, casting your mind back to that sun-warmed garden one final time. You offer a silent gesture of gratitude to the ghost of the memory, acknowledging the joy it once provided before letting the remainder of the sensation dissolve into the ionized air. The hollow in your chest feels smaller now, less an ache and more a clean, empty space ready to be filled by the truths ahead.
That chapter is closed, and its peace is woven into the earth. Whatever wisdom remains in this nexus, I am ready to receive it, without the heavy tether of my youth.
Elara watches you, her obsidian eyes catching the refraction of the crystalline walls. She moves closer, her presence grounding the swirling energy of the corridor. The raven feathers at her shoulders shift, catching the brilliance of the white light ahead. And for the first time, her expression softens from wary detachment into something akin to genuine respect.
You have achieved a balance that few possess, Wyndra. Most come to the grove to beg for the return of what they have lost. You come only to understand why you were meant to lose it.
She gestures toward the blinding sphere of light.
Step into the center. The light will not judge your history. It will reveal the threads of your future. I will hold the threshold for you.
The nexus pulses with a rhythmic, welcoming brilliance. You stand at the precipice of revelation, with Elara standing guard at your back. You reach back, your fingers finding hers. Elara's skin is cool to the touch, contrasting sharply with the feverish hum of the crystalline walls. You squeeze her hand briefly, a steadying, silent anchor before you step into the unknown.
Thank you, Elara. Your presence has been the only thing keeping the shifting nature of this place from feeling like a descent into madness. I do not forget such things.
Elara freezes, her obsidian eyes widening as she looks down at your joined hands. A faint, silvery blush blooms across her high cheekbones, and for a fleeting moment, the regal, detached warden vanishes, replaced by a woman caught in a rare, vulnerable stillness. She does not pull away. Instead, her fingers tighten around yours, a brief, reciprocal pressure that vibrates with the same intensity as the nexus ahead.
Do not think your gratitude buys you an easy path, Weaver, but I acknowledge the weight of our shared journey. Go now, before the light decides we have lingered too long.
She releases your hand, her touch lingering like a phantom sensation against your palm. You turn toward the white brilliance, the hum rising into a symphonic roar of raw, unwritten potential. With a final, grounded breath, you step fully into the center of the nexus, the world dissolving into pure, blinding clarity. The heart of the grove is silent, the blinding light dimming to reveal the single, golden thread that governs the fate of the forest. You feel the pulse of the world beneath your skin, waiting for your touch. Elara watches from the threshold, her expression unreadable but her gaze burning with expectation. You stand amidst the blinding radiance of the nexus. The golden thread hums with a frequency that resonates against your teeth, a living conduit of destiny. You do not reach for it yet. Instead, you turn back toward the threshold where Elara stands, her silhouette framed by the stark white brilliance of the chamber. The weight of the moment is too immense for one soul to bear, and the vision of the forest's fate feels like a burden meant for two.
This light does not just show the path forward. It reveals the cost of walking it. I will not weave this future alone, Elara. Step forward and look upon the truth with me.
Elara hesitates, her hand drifting from her blade to rest tentatively against her own chest. The iridescent feathers of her mantle quiver as she steps into the nexus, her obsidian eyes reflecting the swirling gold of the central thread. As she nears, the blinding glare softens, coalescing into a shimmering, holographic display of the forest's future. A complex, interconnected web of light that flickers with the urgency of the world's fraying threads. She reaches out, her fingers trembling as they brush the edge of the radiance.
I have guarded the silence of this place for an age, Wyndra. To see the threads laid bare, it is terrifying. But if you are willing to look, then I shall not turn away.
She moves closer, the warmth of the nexus radiating between you. The air tastes of static and blooming ozone, and the silence of the heart of the grove is filled by the steady, synchronized rhythm of your breathing. The golden thread pulses with life, waiting for your shared touch to solidify the vision. Elara stands beside you, her shoulder brushing yours, her presence a grounding force against the overwhelming vastness of the revelation. You point toward a jagged, splintering section of the golden thread, where the luminescence pales into a sickly, translucent gray. The decay is aggressive, eating away at the integrity of the strand like rust devouring iron. It is here that the grove's connection to the outer world is failing, and the sight of it causes the entire chamber to shudder, the ambient light flickering with a discordant, shrill hum.
Look there, Elara. The rot is not merely an external threat. It is feeding upon the very foundation of this sanctuary. If we do not stabilize this fracture, the fraying will accelerate until the grove is severed from the world entirely.
Elara leans in, her breath hitching as she tracks the path of the corruption. Her obsidian eyes narrow, and she traces the air with a slender finger, mirroring the jagged path of the decay. The proximity of her warmth is a stark contrast to the frigid, static-charged atmosphere of the Nexus.
I have patrolled these boundaries for centuries, yet I never perceived the depth of this wound. It is not just failing. It is being undone by something that knows the architecture of our magic. To touch that thread is to invite the decay into your own spirit, Wyndra. Are you certain you wish to risk such a tether?
She turns to you, her expression a fragile mask of professional duty struggling against genuine fear. The golden thread pulses, casting long, stark shadows across her face, highlighting the tension in her jaw. The fracture is deepening, the light dimming as the corruption spreads. You stand at the center of the Nexus, the only one capable of influencing the thread, but the cost of intervention is a direct, intimate connection with the rot. You extend your hands, palms outward, weaving the ambient, static-charged air into a shimmering lattice of intent. You do not reach for the corruption itself, but rather draw upon the surrounding light of the Nexus, pulling the golden threads of the grove's vitality to form a protective shroud. The air grows dense with the sound of 1,000 whispering leaves, a chorus that sharpens into a focused hum as you lace the weave together. You feel the rot recoil, the gray infection hissing as your barrier forms a resilient, glowing seal over the fracture.
The seal is anchored. It will not heal the wound, but it will hold the decay at bay long enough for us to understand what has breached these roots.
Elara watches, her breath held, her eyes darting between your weaving hands and the now shimmering, sealed fracture. The oppressive heat of the Nexus begins to dissipate, leaving behind a crisp, cool atmosphere that smells of mountain rain and pine needles. She steps forward, her fingers trembling slightly as she reaches out to trace the air just inches from your glowing construct.
You have caged the void without becoming its conduit. I have seen the greatest mages of the forest falter before such a task, Wyndra. Your restraint is unnerving.
She looks at you, the reflection of the golden light dancing in her dark eyes. The tension in her shoulders has begun to thaw, replaced by a guarded, contemplative curiosity. The nexus pulses with a gentler, more rhythmic light, its initial, frantic energy replaced by a steady, expectant glow that seems to wait for your next move. The seal holds, but the rot remains beneath, pulsing against your barrier. The nexus is stable, yet the origin of the corruption is now visible as a faint, spectral trail leading deeper into the root system. The nexus hums with a fading resonance, the golden light softening to a warm, ember-like glow that illuminates the dust motes dancing in the air. You let your hands fall, the residual static of the seal prickling against your fingertips. The danger freezes in place, and the feverish heat of the grove's relentless gaze evaporates, replaced by a sudden, shivering chill of liberation. You turn to Alara, who stands amidst the swirling motes, her hand finally falling away from the hilt of her blade.
The seal is anchored. We have bought the forest a reprieve, Elara. Whatever rot has breached these roots, it will not claim the heart tonight. We have earned a moment of stillness, I think.
Alara looks at you, her obsidian eyes catching the soft, pulsing light of the sealed fracture. The tension that had defined her posture, the rigid, defensive stance of a warden, slowly evaporates. She exhales a breath she seems to have been holding since you arrived, her shoulders dropping. She steps closer, the raven feathers of her mantle settling with a soft, dry rustle that sounds like the approach of autumn.
You speak of earning as if this place grants rewards. It usually only demands more. Yet, you are right. The pulse of the nexus has steadied. For now, the silence is not a threat, but a gift.
The rustle of her movement punctuates the quiet, her hand lingering for a moment to smooth her hairline, while her expression settles into sudden ease. The cold detachment that usually masks her features is gone, replaced by a weary, human warmth that feels entirely new. The quiet of the nexus is profound, a sanctuary carved out of the forest's ancient, living pulse. Ilara stands within arm's reach, her presence no longer that of a guardian, but of a companion who has walked through the fire of the Nexus with you. The morning sun filters through the high, barred windows of the Slifer-Red dormitory, casting long, dusty shadows across your shared bunk. You sit up, your fingers brushing against the weathered deck case tucked beneath your pillow, the only inheritance your grandfather left behind. The air is stagnant, smelling of floor wax and the faint, ozone-heavy tang of nearby dueling arenas. Today is the day you finally begin your climb. Kaito stands by the door, his eyes darting toward the hallway as if expecting a sudden inspection. He adjusts his dual disc nervously.
The upperclassmen are already gathering at the main gate for morning practice, Wyndra. If we're late, the Obelisk Scouts will have another reason to mock our rank. Are you coming?
You look at your reflection in the cracked mirror, adjusting your collar. The island's prestige feels like a weight, but your grandfather's cards hum with a dormant, familiar energy against your palm. You offer Kaito a firm, steadying look. The frantic energy of the dormitory, the rustle of clothes, the clatter of dual discs fades into the background as your resolve hardens.
Go, Kaito. If we are both absent, the scrutiny will only increase. I need to understand the foundations of what we're facing before I step onto that stage.
Kaito hesitates, his knuckles white as he grips his deck case, before nodding curtly and bolting out the door. You wait until his footsteps vanish down the hall before pulling your own deck from beneath the pillow. The cards feel warm, vibrating with a subterranean hum that defies the sterile, electric air of the island. You bypass the main gates, instead navigating the winding, vine-choked paths toward the archives. The library is silent, lit only by the soft, cerulean glow of data streams overhead. You find a secluded alcove, hidden behind a stack of forbidden theory texts, and spread your cards across the table. As you focus, the reality of the room seems to shudder, the walls shimmering like a desert mirage. A new card, blank and pulsating with a violet aura, begins to manifest from the ether of your own deck. The library is deathly quiet, but your cards are far from still. The air around the table begins to warp, the light refracting into unnatural, jagged edges. You are on the verge of forcing a rift into existence, but the effort is taxing, and the library's security sensors are beginning to pulse with a warning crimson. You slam your hand onto the table, ignoring the stinging static that licks at your skin. The violet aura surrounding the blank card flares, expanding with a violent, low-frequency thrum that rattles the very marrow of your bones. The library's ambient cerulean glow shatters, replaced by a jagged, shifting landscape of geometric fissures that tear through the floorboards. The security alarms begin to shriek, a piercing, rhythmic pulse of crimson light that sweeps across the room. You don't retreat. You channel the memory of your grandfather's voice, the steady, grounding cadence that taught you to see the gaps in the world's design. The card pulses in sync with your heartbeat, its edges hardening into a sharp, obsidian-like frame. The rift is no longer just a concept. It is an intrusion, a pocket of raw, unwritten reality bleeding into the sterile academy. Suddenly, the library door hisses open. A silhouette stands framed against the harsh hallway lighting, their posture rigid.
That energy signature is unregistered, student. Cease this reality warping immediately, or face permanent expulsion from the curriculum.
The air in the alcove grows dense, tasting of ozone and burnt copper. The rift hums with a defiant, hungry resonance, demanding to be fed more of your focus. Vane steps closer, his hand hovering over a containment remote that could collapse the space around you, and the card with it. The rift is nearly stable, but it requires a final push of your will, one that might leave you vulnerable to his authority. You act on instinct, pulling your hands back as if the table were searing iron. With a sharp mental snap, you dampen the violet aura. The jagged, reality-warping fissures stutter and vanish, the library's ambient cerulean glow rushing back to fill the void like a returning tide. You sweep the pulsating, obsidian-rimmed card into the deep folds of your dark robe, just as the space between you and the librarian ripples with dissipating energy. Vane freezes, his hand still inches from the remote. His spectacles catch the flickering crimson light, turning his gaze into two cold, unreadable mirrors. He steps into the alcove, his boots clicking with rhythmic, clinical precision against the polished floor. He sniffs the air, his thin nose twitching at the lingering ozone.
The sensor grid reported a localized surge of anomalous data. A spike of this magnitude does not occur by accident, Wyndra. You would do well to remember that the Academy's architecture is not a playground for your grandfather's outdated theories.
He leans in, the sterile scent of his antiseptic uniform clashing with the faint, metallic tang of the rift you just collapsed. His blue eyes search your face, looking for the telltale signs of a student who has touched something they shouldn't.
I was merely reviewing the archive's historical records, librarian. If the sensors are glitching, perhaps it is due to the same instability that is causing these erasures we keep hearing about. I assure you, my focus is entirely on my studies.
Vane's eyes narrow, his silence stretching out like a wire pulled to its breaking point. He knows you are hiding something, but he lacks the direct proof to escalate this beyond a warning.
Librarian, if the sensors are miscalibrated, it reflects poorly on the Academy's integrity. I am a student of history, and I would be happy to assist in reviewing the log streams. Perhaps we can identify the source of the interference together before it triggers a false alarm again.
Vane's eyes narrow, the clinical coldness of his spectacles dimming slightly as he processes the offer. He stands motionless for a long moment, the hum of the surrounding holographic archives providing the only soundtrack to his hesitation. He clearly suspects you, but your willingness to volunteer for a deep dive into the school's sensitive data streams presents a dilemma. If you are a saboteur, he wants you watched. If you are merely a curious student, he can utilize your labor to fix the very sensors that caught you.
An interesting pivot, Wyndra. Very well. If you are so confident in your aptitude, you will remain here under my direct supervision. We shall examine the sub-layer diagnostics. If I find even a hint of data tempering, you will find your enrollment revoked before the next bell.
He gestures toward a nearby console, his movements rigid and precise. As you approach the interface, the card hidden in your robe pulses once, a dull, rhythmic ache against your hip, as if sensing the vast, digital architecture of the library waiting to be harvested. You stand before the pulsing, holographic interface. Vane is watching your every move, expecting a slip-up, but the system's architecture feels unusually porous, almost inviting your unique, reality-warping touch. You slide your fingers across the haptic interface, the surface cool and vibrating with the hum of the Academy's central processor. Vane stands just behind your shoulder, his presence a heavy, frigid weight. You focus on the data stream, your heart hammering against your ribs as you locate the sub-layer logs, the very place where the record of your energy spike is etched in immutable code. With a flick of your wrist, you initiate a recursive loop. You weave a sophisticated, cascading sequence of ghost signals, mimicking a routine server purge. It is a masterclass in obfuscation. The corrupted data fragments you inject into the logs appear as a natural byproduct of the system's ongoing, unstable maintenance.
The sensor grid is suffering from backscatter, librarian. If you look at the latency patterns here, it's clearly an internal hardware conflict rather than an external surge. I've rerouted the background noise to an isolated buffer so it won't trigger the alarms again.
Vane peers over your shoulder, his thin eyes tracking the rapidly scrolling text. The fake logs hold steady, convincing in their banality. He lets out a sharp, audible exhale, the sound brittle as dry leaves.
It seems you possess a surprising proficiency with system architecture, Wyndra. A pity that such aptitude is wasted on a Slifer-Red student. I will review the buffer logs tomorrow. If this is indeed a hardware failure, I expect a full repair report on my desk by dawn.
He pulls back, his gaze lingering on your hands before he turns toward the exit. The air in the alcove seems to thin as he departs, leaving you alone with the glowing, indifferent interface and the silent, pulsating power of the rift card still tucked against your skin. Vane has retreated, but the library is still under high alert. Your makeshift digital shroud is fragile, and the card in your robe is growing warm, an insistent, rhythmic thrum that suggests it wants to be used. With Vane's retreating footsteps echoing against the obsidian-tiled floor, you turn back to the console. The library's core hums with a vast, sleeping intelligence, its data streams flickering like trapped lightning. You pull the obsidian-rimmed card from your robes. It is ice cold now, hungry. You press it against the console's haptic interface, feeling the digital architecture give way like softened wax. You aren't just hiding your tracks anymore. You are grafting the card's unstable, reality-warping signature directly into the library's foundation. As the violet energy bleeds from the card into the mainframe, the holographic shelves around you shudder. The cerulean light of the archive turns a deep, bruised amethyst. You feel the library recognize the card, weaving it into the very security protocols meant to identify you. You are no longer an intruder. You are part of the system's own internal architecture.
Adapt or be erased. Let's see how the Academy handles a ghost in its own machine.
The terminal flares, then settles into a steady, rhythmic pulse that mirrors your own breathing. You have created a blind spot in the heart of the school, but the strain of the synthesis leaves you lightheaded, your fingers trembling against the cool glass of the terminal. The library is now your sanctuary, but the power you've tapped into is vast and volatile. The Rift card is fully integrated, yet it feels as though it's straining against the limits of the console's processing capacity. The terminal's interface bleeds into your dual disk, the connection feeling less like a data transfer and more like a transfusion of forbidden knowledge. As the encrypted files begin to cascade into your drive, the Rift card in your hand hums, its violet energy pulsating in harmony with the library's main processor. You feel the architecture of the Academy's research, the cold, clinical logic behind the erasure protocol, unraveling before your eyes. The download bar climbs, white light reflecting in your eyes. You see diagrams of reality folding, sequences of unstable memory deletion, and most damningly, the schematics for a containment field designed specifically to neutralize your grandfather's legacy. Your pulse quickens, the weight of the stolen data heavy and exhilarating. Suddenly, the terminal chirps, a low, rhythmic alarm that doesn't trigger the main sensors. It is a ping from an external source, a digital breadcrumb left by someone, or something, that knew you would come here.
They weren't just waiting for a student to trip the sensors. They were waiting for someone to find the back door.
The file transfer hits 100%, just as the library's ambient lighting shifts from amethyst to a harsh, blinding white. The connection snaps, leaving your dual disk vibrating with the stolen truth. The silence that follows is absolute, save for the hum of your own gear. The stolen data burns in your dual disk's memory, a map to the heart of the conspiracy. You are hidden in the shadows, but the digital footprint you left behind is a beacon for anyone monitoring these specific restricted logs. You retreat deeper into the alcove, pulling your robes tight to shield the terminal's glow from the main aisle. Your fingers dance across the haptic interface, bypassing the final layer of encryption with a pulse of your own essence. The data streams unravel, bleeding raw, uncompressed information into your dual disk. The architect is not some faceless AI program, but a name etched into the highest levels of the Academy's founding board. Director Holloway. The logs reveal a cold, clinical obsession with pruning, deleting archetypes deemed stagnant to force the game into a singular, controlled evolution. Holloway isn't just researching erasure. He is the origin point.
So, the garden is being burned by the one who planted it. Holloway, you have no idea what you've invited into this system.
As the final decryption key settles, your dual disk vibrates with a sharp, insistent frequency. The files are not just text. They contain a dormant virus designed to track the source of the breach. You feel the library's security grid tighten, the ambient light flickering with a predatory, shifting rhythm. They know someone has accessed the heart of the conspiracy. The terminal locks down, the holographic shelves turning a violent, strobe-like crimson. Vane's voice echoes from the far end of the library, his tone dripping with the cold satisfaction of a trap snapping shut. You are surrounded by the digital ghost of the Academy's security protocols. The library's sterile white alarms shriek, a sound that shreds the air like glass, but you do not falter. You shove the obsidian-rimmed card into the primary interface, your palms glowing with a violet, discordant light. The rift explodes outward, not as a spell, but as a physical transformation of the room. The shelves tear away from their anchors, replaced by jagged, floating monoliths of dark, unwritten matter. The floor beneath you liquefies into a swirling vortex of shadow and static, creating a defensive barrier that hums with a predatory, low-frequency thrum. Vane stumbles back, his pristine uniform fluttering in the sudden, localized gale. He aims the remote at you, but the beam of suppression hits the edge of your rift and refracts, scattering harmlessly against the ceiling. You ignore his shout, your focus locked onto the terminal as the final encrypted signatures of Halloway's project flood into your drive. The reality-warping energy of the rift shields you, the very air around you turning into a weaponized wall of conceptual entropy.
You built these walls to keep students in line, Vane, but you forgot that some truths are too heavy to be contained. You can't delete what you've already turned into a weapon.
The download bar hits its zenith, the data sinking into your disk with a final, echoing chime that sounds like shattering crystal. The library architecture groans, the holographic records flickering as the rift draws more power from the room's foundation.
You are dismantling the security of this entire institution. Do you have any idea what you've unleashed?
The rift is unstable, its violet edges beginning to fray as the Academy's core systems launch an automated counterpurge. You have the data, but the library is collapsing around you, and Vane is reaching for a secondary, more lethal override.
The eyes of this academy are blind, librarian. I'm simply teaching them how to blink.
You thrust your hands forward, the violet entropy of the rift surging through the terminal's core. It isn't just a surge of raw energy. It is a complex, reality-warping virus. You feel the library's surveillance grid shudder as you rewrite its core protocols, flooding the system with corrupted feedback loops that permanently scrub the records of every student currently flagged by Holloway's secret erasure algorithm. The crimson strobes of the library turn a soft, calming amber as the system accepts your override as the new baseline truth.
You've blinded the central node. You've decimated years of predictive metadata. Do you have any idea what you've done to the integrity of this institution?
The rift begins to collapse, the obsidian-edged card turning to brittle ash in your palm. The floor stabilizes, but the heavy, ozone-charged weight of your intrusion lingers in the air. You don't wait for Vane to recover his composure or his remote. With the security grid now blind to your identity, you turn and vanish into the shifting, twilight-dim aisles of the restricted archives, slipping through a maintenance hatch that leads toward the labyrinthine bowels of the island. The hiss of the closing hatch seals the library behind you, leaving Vane alone in the amber-lit silence. The stolen data is safe in your disk, pulsing with a life of its own. You are safely beneath the library, the hum of the Academy's subterranean cooling fans vibrating through the metal floor. You have the data, the security grid is compromised, and the weight of your grandfather's legacy is no longer just a memory. It is an active, evolving threat to Holloway's design. You lean back against a rusted support beam, the metallic tang of the cooling fans vibrating through your spine. A low, genuine laugh escapes your throat, echoing against the damp iron walls of the subterranean duct. The image of Vane, normally a statue of cold, clinical order, staring at his own monitors in total, sputtering confusion, is a balm to the tension that has been tightening your chest since morning.
The look on his face. He really thought his rules could reach into the shadows. He's going to spend all night chasing ghosts in the machine, while I hold the keys to his kingdom.
You look down at your dual disk. The screen is no longer displaying standard Academy protocols. Instead, it flickers with the raw, jagged data of Holloway's erasure project. The information is dense, a tangled web of corrupted logic and cruel ambition. You feel the weight of it, the responsibility of knowing that your grandfather's legacy isn't just a collection of cards, but a focal point for a war the Academy doesn't even know it's losing. The fans churn above you, a constant, mechanical heartbeat that drowns out the world above, leaving you in this secret, industrial pocket of the island. The victory is yours, but the disk is overheating from the sheer volume of illicit data. You need to stabilize the connection before the Academy's sub-layer security recovers enough to trace the signature back to your hardware. You find a recessed maintenance console tucked behind a shuddering ventilation pipe, its surface coated in a fine layer of industrial soot. Your fingers dance across the cracked interface, the haptic sensors responding sluggishly to your touch. You tap into the local drive, siphoning the raw, volatile data from your dual disk into a partitioned, encrypted sector hidden beneath the Academy's benign diagnostic logs. The transfer bar crawls across the screen, a fragile line of progress that feels like a countdown to your own discovery.
Hide in plain sight. If Holloway wants to scrub the past, he can start by looking for his own deleted files.
As the last packet of information locks into place, the terminal's amber glow stabilizes. You have successfully compartmentalized the data, shielding the evidence of Holloway's erasure project behind layers of Academy standard security that will flag anyone, even the director himself, should they attempt a direct, unauthorized breach. The vibration of the giant cooling fans overhead deepens, a low-frequency hum that feels like the island itself is finally acknowledging the parasite you've grafted into its foundation. You pull your robes tight, the warmth of the disk against your chest, a silent testament to the leverage you now wield. The data is secured, but the maintenance shaft is a dead end. You hear the faint, rhythmic clatter of security boots echoing through the ventilation ducts far above, signaling that Vane's team has shifted their search to the lower levels.
Let's see how your precious sensors handle a total sensory blackout.
You jam your palm into the console's interface, channeling the last of the rift's fading resonance into the hardware. The maintenance console groans, its internal wiring glowing white-hot as you force a catastrophic surge through the local power grid. A localized magnetic pulse ripples outward, a silent, invisible wave that tears through the nearby security sensors. You feel the feedback vibrate through your very teeth. The overhead cameras instantly go dark, their lenses shattering, and the rhythmic, ominous sweeping of motion detectors dies in an instant. The clatter of security boots in the tunnel above abruptly halts, replaced by the bewildered, frustrated shouting of the tactical team as their equipment fails. Your own heat signature, once a beacon in the cold industrial gloom, is effectively scrubbed from the grid by the lingering electromagnetic distortion. A rhythmic hiss of venting gas masks your landing as you clear the grate, settling into the heavy silence of the maintenance shaft. The silence here is heavy, broken only by the distant, muffled thud of security teams stumbling in the dark above. You are ghost-like now, untraceable and hidden in the island's iron guts. The pulse bought you time, but the ventilation shafts are a maze of shifting currents and dead ends. You have the data, but your energy is spent, and the physical toll of the rift is beginning to manifest as a bone-deep ache. You tap the maintenance terminal, your fingers tracing the glowing schematics of the island's underbelly. The map is a tangled knot of copper veins and pressure-regulated arteries. You isolate the primary conduits, filtering out the heat signatures of the security teams still scrambling in the dark above. A path emerges, a bypass through the auxiliary steam vents that empties directly into the basement levels beneath the slifer-red dormitories. You pull your robes tighter, the fabric catching slightly on a protruding bolt. The damp heat of the tunnel is oppressive, but the route is clear. You navigate the junction, ducking beneath a weeping pipe that releases a long, mournful hiss of vapor. The air here is heavy with the smell of rusted iron and stagnant water, a stark departure from the sterile, ozonated atmosphere of the upper levels. You move with silent, measured strides, your feet padding against the metal grating as you trace the path toward the dorms. The further you delve, the more the industrial roar of the island's ventilation system fades, replaced by the distant, muffled sound of the ocean crashing against the Academy's cliffs. You reach a junction marked by a flickering, yellow maintenance light. You pause, leaning against the cold bulkhead to steady your breathing. The stolen data in your disk feels like a burning coal, but you are close. A few more turns, and you will be beneath the dorms, far from the eyes of the faculty and the reach of Halloway's sensors.
Almost there. One more vent, and I can finally see what Holloway is hiding in these files.
The path ahead is narrow, a vertical shaft of heat-warped piping that leads directly upward into the dormitory foundations. You are exhausted, the physical toll of the rift leaving your limbs feeling leaden, but the prospect of analyzing the stolen data keeps your focus sharp. You heave your body upward, fingers digging into the rusted rungs of the maintenance ladder. The air grows cooler as you climb, the oppressive humidity of the steam tunnels yielding to the sterile, recycled chill of the slifer-red dormitory foundations. With a final, exertion-fueled grunt, you push open the heavy access grate and scramble onto the floor of your quarters. The room is silent, save for the distant, rhythmic pulsing of the island's core. You collapse onto your bunk, your chest heaving, and pull the dual disc from your wrist. Its surface is hot to the touch, the stolen data flickering across the holographic display in a cascade of jagged, unauthorized code. You are exhausted. Your muscles ache with the lingering static of the rift, but the files are finally yours. You tap the display, and a map of Halloway's erasure project blossoms in the air, revealing the chilling scale of his ambition.
He thinks he's pruning a garden. He has no idea he's been cultivating a wildfire.
You watch the data streams, realizing the project isn't just about deleting cards. It is about rewriting the fundamental laws of dueling to ensure absolute obedience. Your grandfather's legacy, the very cards beneath your pillow, are at the center of the crosshairs. The dorm is quiet, but the data on your disk is volatile. You have a moment of respite to process the implications of Halloway's plan, but the disk's internal heat suggests the file encryption is beginning to auto-destruct.